Hello and welcome to NetSurfer Pro, a whirlwind ride through the World Wide Web. I am your host, Matt, and with me is, as always...
Galen.
And guess what?
It's VaporMay!
It's gonna be May. VaporMay, yes. Yeah, so our Aprilwave month went a little over schedule, and so it's going to be bleeding over into VaporMay, which luckily also has a good pun name. We're still planning on doing this, and then I believe one more episode of VaporMay.
Yes. I unless we can think of anything for June, this will be the last month for this. Apologies, this is slightly my fault. This was sort of, I think I explained it last time, but it was a lot of I felt sick, and then I got the COVID vaccine and felt sick, and then just sort of a lot of things happened. But it's VaporMay. We will be on schedule this time. Ignore the fact that this is slightly late as well.
It doesn't matter.
It does matter, though. They deserve a full explanation. I think our audience deserves to hear every individual detail of why I was sick. Okay, so it all started out with my mom. Damn it! It's the state of the meme.
It even
right
sounded
in the middle
like
of this explanation.
It even sounded like the state of the meme alert was kind of sick as well.
Yeah, I haven't been able to change the automaton. I have to actually replace the automaton every time the state of the meme goes off. It's like a fuse breaking,
Yeah. So I want to take this state of the meme to talk about something that I personally really enjoy. Today, when we're recording this, is May 2nd, actually? Oh, I thought it was May 1st. Well, it's May 2nd, and 2 days ago was the last day in April, and there is a specific meme you can only post on the last day of April, which, if my little intro bit didn't cue you in, it is the bit of the Backstreet Boys singing "It's Gonna Be Me," but instead of me, it's May, because it sounds like they're saying May. So the reason I love this is because it's literally just a dumb joke, but you can only post it on one day of the year. And I love these little, meme holidays where they're not really a holiday. It's just one day where you can post something. Other ones are September 21st, or the end of September, where you gotta wake up Billy Joe Armstrong.
I see a lot of images floating around where it's Tuesday the 13th from The Simpsons.
Yeah, or Thursday the 20th or something like that.
Yeah.
There's also, of course, Cherno Day, September 9th. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. I actually saw a new one on April 30th, which was I think it was MGS2, and it's Raiden's fighting a guy, and the guy's like, "Do you know what today is?" And Raiden goes, "April 30th," and it just ends there.
Yeah. It's something like a collective understanding of how, dates are just kind of easier to remember if they have something funny with them. Or, you can remember dates for, holidays like Christmas or stuff like that, but anything can technically be a memorable date as long as there's some reason to remember it. And so a lot of these holiday memes or one day of the year memes feel almost like subcultural I'm trying to think of a word for it, but it's like holidays determined by people on accident.
Yeah, it feels like a meme in the actual analytical or
evolutionary.
Yeah, it feels like a meme in the actual academic sense, where we think of an internet meme as a sort of internet trend, but the term meme kind of means one single ounce of culture, one metric unit of culture, and so Tuesday the 20th, or the Ren and Stimpy, "Don't you know what today is? It's Tuesday the 17th, the unluckiest day of the year." Those are little tiny, just little bits of culture that don't have a whole lot of significance outside of it, but they're just fun little dates to bring up and remember, and remind other people that, hey, this happened in a cartoon or in a video game, or
Yeah.
in a song.
It's sort of like the internet age, like post meme era version of like Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Yeah, that's a very good like parallel.
Yeah. So I think that does it for State of the Meme. Now we can go into the actual topic for the episode.
Yes, this is a really really interesting topic, and another one of those things where we're going to say, you know, oh, spoilers, but we can actually talk about quite a bit of the game without like directly spoiling any of the big stuff, which is very fun.
Yeah. So we're continuing VaporMay, as we said. Where we're talking about vaporwave media and specifically vaporwave video games. Last episode we covered Hypnospace Outlaw. This one is a bit, so it's sort of what people call a walking simulator. And I'll get more into that a bit later, but it is primarily about exploring these 3D worlds and environments. It is the game Broken Reality. And so Broken Reality is a game where you are kind of put into this like VR chat sort of thing. Very similar to like Second Life or Active Worlds, or I guess nowadays would be VR chat, but that came out after Broken Reality. And you're kind of told to just like get likes and get popular, and then that can let you access more zones. And there's obviously, of course, as many games oft do, more of a twist to the story later on, which we won't spoil until later. But for the most part, it's about exploring, gathering likes in various ways, meeting some interesting people, kind of just breathing in the world.
Yeah, it's a very visual and a very auditory experience, as well as just like a video game. It's so in terms of walking simulatorism, quote unquote, there is, if you are familiar with sort of like the term and the stigma surrounding it, there is like actual puzzles and actual like things to find and things to do, tasks to solve. But like the core of the game is very much in exploring and living in this virtual space.
Right. I want to talk about the gameplay a bit, because I feel like for Hypnospace, we didn't talk as much about the game design necessarily.
Yeah.
And I think this does have some interesting elements in game design alone. So the gameplay, you don't have like a jump button or anything. Instead, you gradually collect these different upgrades. You get a bunch of upgrades in the first sort of area or world or zone. And then as you go, you'll get smaller improvements to those abilities, but the core idea of the abilities remains the same. You have like a sword that can break through viruses, which are these little pop-up walls that will appear and block your path. You have a checkpoint called a bookmark, where you can use it to set like a checkpoint and then use it again to teleport there. You have a credit card that lets you buy things. You have a little thumbs up hand that lets you like things, which we can talk about in a second. And you have a little arrow icon called the hyperlinker, which functions sort of like the hookshot in Zelda, where there are different targets or different like panels you click on, and you kind of zoom up to them. And there is platforming in the sense that there are a lot of parts in the game that require you to use the hyperlinker for movement. And so it's hard to call it purely a walking simulator because of that. There's also a lot of like side quests and more of a quest structure in general, especially after the first world. So like it kind of has this element of like you're going through doing tasks for other people. And then there's a few other like kind of interactive things. And so in some ways it doesn't feel like a walking simulator because of that, but I think it does so in terms of like world design.
I think the key word would probably be dexterity. Like there are instances in Broken Reality where you'll have to have a certain amount of dexterity to complete the challenge, whereas in what you think in like your prototypical walking simulator, it's mostly just actually walking and maybe a single button for interacting with the world. But like it doesn't have there's no moment in Stanley Parable where like you have to, click from one hook shot to the other hook shot to the other hook shot in succession.
I'm actually trying to think if there's any ending in Stanley Parable that requires any amount of dexterity, but now I'm not sure.
I think it requires dexterity of the mind.
I was gonna say the only one I can think of is the escape pod ending.
Oh yes, that's true.
But so technically there is an upgrade in Broken Reality that lets you slow down time, which you can use to make those endgame hyperlink puzzles a bit easier.
Yeah.
But so it has collectathon elements because your main goal for much of the early and mid game is to gather likes, and there's a few different ways you can do this. So like there's liking advertisements with your liker. There's using the credit card to buy things and to get credit from credit machines. There are little photograph spots you can take pictures of to get likes, and then there's completing quests. And there's also just a bunch of likes on the ground. If you think of them kind of like the notes in Banjo-Kazooie, you can sort of understand their presence, if you will.
Yeah, they're kind of used in a like game design sense as like a lead to various other challenges, but they're also just present on the ground as a direct collectible.
Right. So there is this collectathon element of like worlds are kind of open-ended so that you can explore and gather these different items, but there's almost an abundance of likes in general in ways to get them, to where like I don't really think you need to gather every single one in order to beat the game. There's definitely a overflow here and there, which I mean is kind of a good thing because you don't want players to feel annoyed at getting stuck somewhere because they can't gather every collectible.
Yeah.
But so when I talk about walking simulator world design, I think it's important to distinguish different types of world design. Many levels in Broken Reality have the typical 3D collectathon structure of like there's sort of a hub and then places branching off of it. The main one I can think of is Aquanet, which is the second level, which has like a kind of temple in the middle, and then there's these other temples around it in a circle. Each one has its own challenge, but more than that, I think the levels are structured to sort of hide and unveil things at specific points. So like when you first enter the first level Domo Paradiso, you really can't see most of the important spots, even once you've passed the like border gate where you meet the main helper character One-chan, which yes is just a character named One-chan.
Yeah. It's wonderful.
But like you can't see the photo huts where you get the photograph, the camera, I mean. You can't see the hut where Ozai, I think it is, or is it Chozai, the like samurai is. You can't see much of like the Dragon Road where you get the hyperlinker. You can't see the shop. And
I mean, even what you can see, which is like the main archway to the mall, is like completely visually blocked off by viruses as well.
Yeah, so like most of the key places in the first level are hidden, and this is sort of how I view a lot of walking simulator design, is very intentional usage of eye lines and sight lines and like horizons to hide things from the player until they're necessary, so that there's this moment of like discovery when you find them. And like I said, Broken Reality definitely does this with the first level. Maybe not as much as second level, but later levels definitely kind of continue into this structure. And it's also worth noting that the game does focus a lot on having these like very specific, what's the word? Like, I guess sightlines is a good way to put it, or like viewpoints. The usage of the camera tool, when you use it, when you're holding it at least, you see these little camera icons show up and you can take pictures of them to gain points. And most of the camera tokens you capture are kind of near important things to take pictures of, either because they're important for like gameplay purposes or because they look cool. And so there's a lot of care given to just like giving the player good ways to find these cool vistas and neat artwork in world design.
Yeah, it's a good way of guiding the player, like using gameplay incentives to guide the player to like having a certain experience or like seeing a certain view, including a lot of important characters will also have like tokens dotted around them. So if their visuals don't immediately indicate it, then you can also use that as a tool of like, this character might be important. I should focus on them and ask them something.
Right, because there are many characters you can interact with and have actual dialogue. Many of them will also give you quests. But there are also a lot of NPCs that you click on and they just give like a little quip, but it doesn't involve any sort of dialogue. It's just like a speech bubble appears above their head.
Yeah, which it should be mentioned that this is a game that is very funny. It's a game that has like a lot of things we talk about, it's a game that has a lot of also very good themes, and we're going to get into that as well. But like, this is also just a very funny game to experience. A lot of the ads are, sort of piss takes on like your typical online ads, where like there's like performance ads, or like. There's an ad of like, have you been recently injured? But like the GIF that shows it is like somebody sitting on a chair and just like not rotating them, 45 degrees at a time until they're like on fire.
Yeah.
There's an ad for Chronic Adventures too, because there's a character named Chronic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. There's a lot of like irreverent internet humor that I think can be kind of hit or miss to some people. So, like, some of them are kind of groaners, like there's a video game store, and one of the video games is Dank Souls.
Yeah. I do want to throw a little distinction here. When we say groaners, this is not a game that, at the very least, that I would notice is like irreverent in the sense of like offensive.
Yeah.
There is no like joke that is at the expense of disabled people or anything.
Yeah, it doesn't.
In this video game.
It doesn't feel like it punches down.
Yeah.
It might punch up. I think it does to a fair extent.
Yeah. I think a lot of the implication jokes punch up in the sort of like, corporations are inherently exploitative, that sort of thing. But like when we say groaners, it's more like internet cringe humor.
Yeah, or just like really overplayed jokes. There is some like more uncomfortable jokes, but not like too bad. But they're also in a part of the game that's meant to be like a really shitty, seedy place. So it's kind of hard to say whether or not they are purely bad or if there's enough context to really make them seem understandable, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put a trigger warning on this game, but I would say like it's the kind of humor that like if you don't have a taste for it, you probably won't have a taste for it for the entire game.
Yeah.
It doesn't twist your expectations like you might expect.
Right.
But that said, I personally quite enjoy that the internet style humor and the sort of the very dumb jokes that it makes sometimes, and it is perfectly up my alley for a lot of the video game.
Yeah, I kind of want to go ahead and break the spoiler warning here, because I want to talk about some jokes in particular.
Well, okay, I think there's two spoiler warnings to give.
Okay.
So there's like one spoiler warning where we're going to talk about like the main 3 levels, well, I guess main 4 levels that you go to, and then there's a secondary spoiler warning of like, definitely stop this right now if you want to play it.
Yeah.
But I think that we can talk about like some of the levels without spoiling any of the like really big ones.
Right. I think we've really mentioned only 2 levels so far.
Yeah, Domo Paradiso and the hub area, or no, the Aquanet.
Yeah. So, really quick, I want to mention 2 incredible jokes in this game, because they are great examples of using gameplay as humor, or like using the medium to accentuate humor. So for one thing, there is a There is a character who you meet that gives you what's called the glitch lens. This character's name is Socrates. It's like a sprite of like a old man. And for one thing, his character like talk icon is him on a toilet, which is great. But also, there's a lot of moments of like you'll be talking to him and he'll just pause for just long enough for something. I think, what is it? Is it Fisherman also has a moment like that where the dialogue waits before like something important happens?
I don't know if Fisherman does, but I do know that the hacker
Right,
certainly does.
the hacker in Aquanet, yeah.
Yeah.
There's also the captain of the level Love Crew 64. There's a moment where you're talking to him and he's like, come closer. And so you choose like go closer or go even closer. And if you choose go even closer, he like fills up the whole screen with its face.
Yeah.
The other joke that is one of my favorite in the game is you're helping like a gang and you talk to a guy named like Toxico or something who's just a green Spider-Man. And he says, all right, for your next job, I need you to download a car.
Yes.
And so you do this like little hacking minigame to download the car itself, but just the idea of literally making download a car an unironic quest line. Well, not, it's ironic as a joke, but it's unironic in terms of you actually download a car.
Yeah, there is a plate that comes up after you complete it saying car downloaded that you have to return to him with.
Yeah.
Another little joke that I quite like in terms of using gameplay in unexpected ways is in Love Crew 64, you unlock keys to the various cabins, and one of the cabins you go into, you talk to whoever's in it, and they're like, there's this creepy stalker guy who's in my bathroom, I think. Can you take him out? And it should be noted right before this, there's like there's a room that I think has the samurai that has like a bunch of like other characters that you have to take out with a sword. So you go to the bathroom, sword drawn presumably, and you click on the guy, except instead of slashing, you literally pick him up, and then you have to physically take him out of the room.
Yeah, it's
and then you talk to her again.
Yeah. There's a lot of small moments like that. What was it? There's I don't remember what it was. Oh, right. I do love there's an NPC in Love Crew 64 that has pixels, and they ask you if you want to vape them.
Yes.
And if you do so, your screen gets like this horrible filter on it for a few minutes.
Yeah, like Commodore 64 filter.
Yeah.
Oh man.
There's a lot of like these small moments like that where it's very surprising at times. There's also some things just like there is so the credit card you use to buy things, and in GeoCity, which is the technically second to last level of the game, you buy things to gain money instead of losing money because of a cheat that the character Fisherman puts on your card. And you can go to a store just called the Money Store where you just buy floating money.
Yeah.
It's sort of like those like Chuck E. Cheese like ticket booth things where they just like flew them up in the air. It's also a reference to the Death Grips album in terms of, just the name, the album, The Money Store. But yeah, it's just a really clever, like, you're buying things and then you just buy money.
Yeah, and my favorite little part about GeoCity 2 is that like you purchase items throughout the game until you get to GeoCity, which is probably like of the main 4 levels, and Hub World is probably going to be the last one you go to. And like the moment that it gives you the card, my intuition immediately told me, oh, I'm gonna have to pay this back, aren't I? And so when you get to the level, the first person you can talk to is Fisherman, and he says, but first things first, you have to square up your debt. And like the next text box is, oh, come on, you knew this was coming, weren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a bit more about the worlds in particular. So the first one is Domo Paradiso. This is the most like paradise related level. It's like, the like cyan skies, a lot of magenta and green. There's a lot of like bamboo. There's a lot of beaches. The photo huts are like huts over wooden walkways, and the music is very reminiscent of like the sort of like chill dive in with echo style of like having a lot of bells playing alongside it. Should be worth noting that all music tracks in the game are actually multiple smaller tracks that get layered on top of each other as you move through the level. So like there is no official version of the theme for Domo Paradiso, because that's actually like 4 or 5 music tracks in terms of the game's files.
Yeah, honestly, that's a good like a sort of good like Banjo-Kazooie comparison, because like it has that exact sort of like, you know, each zone has its own different layer of tone or layer of track that it puts over. I think that Domo Paradiso is also like, when we talk about vaporwave, it's also very visually vaporwave. Like one of the first floors you get into is that like tiled floor that's very iconic of the Macintosh Plus album, and then like to your left is a very Japanese style setting with bamboo trees and the Shinto arches, and so like, you know, it has that like Japanese that Japanese influence there. It has the like beaches and various sections, so it's very, like you said, paradise, but it's also very obviously influenced by that of, you know, very sunny, very happy.
Right, there's also a lot of dolphins.
Yes. A lot of marble work as well.
Yes, columns, stairs, everything. So when you spend a lot of time in Domo Paradiso just kind of learning the ropes, eventually you meet the admin who is like, you know, I'll open the way out of here for you. And then you turn around and leave the admin's office, and when you turn back, the admin is gone, which was a pretty funny moment in terms of like just surprise. Like, ooh, wait, hold on, what was that?
Yeah.
You leave Domo Paradiso, you go to Access Plaza, which is this game's sort of hub world. It is like all other worlds connect to Access Plaza, and Access Plaza, it breaks off your like ability to access other worlds by using these gates. And the only way to open them is by having a certain amount of likes, which is the sort of collectathon element. The second world you can go to out of, or it should be noted actually that Access Plaza has stuff you can do. Most of it is related to like a more late game thing, but there is like a shop you can do a shopping minigame at. There's other things here and there, NPCs to talk to, but it kind of mainly exists to shepherd you between locations. The second world is Aquanet, which is a pretty big open one, where you get the glitch lens, which allows you to open a lot of stuff in the game. It's mostly underwater, hence the name Aquanet. When you enter it, you're on like this big red bridge, and when you first walk along like halfway or so, a like 3D axis sort of indicator you would see in a modeling program comes up and then smashes the bridge, and you're forced to fix the bridge by fixing all these different things. Aquanet has these, I want to say it's like 4 or so temples. There's the one where you meet Socrates. There is one that is like mainly just ruins with a bunch of fans in it. They look like CPU fans. One of them is the archives, where there's like a math puzzle you have to do. That's also, by the way, random every time you play the game.
Oh, I didn't actually know that.
I think the like operations you have to make are the same, but the X and Y you're given are different every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, the archives also have some lore in the back of it, which is we'll get to later.
Yeah, it's a secret.
And then there's sort of this dragon palace sort of thing, very red, very bright. And there you meet the hacker and fisherman for the first time, who are 2 different characters. There's also a hilarious joke. So after you finish fixing every temple, you go back to Fisherman, and Fisherman's like, okay, I'll fix the bridge. And literally the screen like shifts to the Unity editor, and you
Yeah.
see him like literally drag the building up as if they were just making the bridge in Unity.
Oh man, it is such a wonderful, like it is such a wonderful joke that you don't really expect the first time you play.
Yeah, Aquanet. It's also worth noting that there are a lot of like small uses of computer icons. So like the fish in Aquanet are little mouse arrows, or the birds in Domo Paradiso are like email icons with wings, stuff like that.
Yeah. One interesting thing about Aquanet is like there's a there is actually a graphic before you go in that shows the like history of it, where it first was split between like VHS and Betamax, and that war sort of like destroyed it. But then people rebuilt it. But then I think like I think there was like another dispute that was between like CDs and I don't
Floppy
even remember.
disks.
Yeah, like CDs and floppy disks, and so it gets destroyed again. But then the like Ethernet people show up. I think.
I think it's the creators of the like the simulation.
Yeah, and so when you first go to Aquanet, it is abandoned. There's no aside from I think Socrates and Fisherman. There's no like NPCs around, and there's certainly none of the like random faceless NPCs that you've seen in Domo Paradiso and Axis Plaza. But as you fix parts of it, people start to populate it. So like as you're fixing it, you're sort of literally fixing the area and making it accessible to people again.
Yeah. It's interesting that like the main problem with the first temple that you actually go to complete one of the like pipes is just that the fans are completely blocked by pop-ups and viruses. The second and third temples don't have as much of that, but that's sort of the idea, is that like it's kind of just been left to decay.
Yeah.
The third level is Love Crew 64, where normally you need to be a way higher rank than you normally can be to enter it, but there is a backdoor shortcut. And when you enter the backdoor shortcut, you end up in the engine room, and you have to do some puzzles and platforming to get to the top.
Here's one criticism about the game. I have only a couple, but here is one. The engine room is a little annoying.
Yeah, especially the like room with the fire pit at the bottom.
Yeah, there's a platforming challenge that is kind of fun. However, if you fall down to the bottom, there is no quick way up. Like you don't unlock a easy access like conveyor from bottom to top. You just sort of have to do it again when you want to do the engine room or want to go back to it.
Right, you're pretty much expected to use the bookmark every single time you make progress through it.
Yeah,
they even have like a bunch of discarded bookmarks in the fire pit to be like, don't end up like these people. Save your progress.
Yeah.
It is very annoying, though. Maybe one of my least favorite parts of the game. The top of Love Crew 64, though, is pretty great. You come out of the engine room and you meet the Captain Joseph, who really needs help. There's a lot of like little side quests you do to help out people on the ship. There is a cooking minigame where there are 3 different tables that want food items, and so you have to cook them for them and then like deliver the food. There is a you help out the dancing guy from Domo Paradiso. By the way, there's a repeating character named like what, Mametor?
Yeah, Mametor, and he's a like big, strong, buff guy in a speedo with wonderful abs, and I think a sombrero also.
And he's always dancing.
Yeah.
Every time he appears, he wants like a picture side quest. So
yeah.
For Domo Paradiso, that's what unlocks the camera, is that side quest. For Love Crew 64, you have to take pictures of a few specific objects, like Chronic the Hedgehog or the moon which is this like weird clip art moon.
Yeah, this weird like smiling face moon looking like like Pac-Man 2 ass.
Yeah.
Uh
There's like drinks for a bar you have to gather. There is a shopping minigame, and then completing the shopping minigame lets you give a diamond to somebody who's pretty much Borat.
yeah.
There's another great joke is, so there's a pool in Love Cruise 64, and the reason you need to give the diamond to Borat is so that he can teach you how to swim. For one thing, he just says like, I've transferred all my swim skills to you, because it's like a computer. For two thing, when you walk up to the pool, it says, would you like to use swim? This is like nowhere else mentioned. There's no like, this isn't a persistent thing. There's no other thing that requires a prompt in order to do it. So it's just kind of funny. It's like a Pokemon thing.
Yeah,
Like,
when you get in the pool, it plays a little like swim from Pokemon jaunt as well.
And then getting in the pool is not any different from walking. You're just walking in water.
Yeah.
There's no different controls or anything. And so completing all these quests gives you the keys to the rooms below, including completing a final quest to like give another diamond to a worker working security. And then once you reach the cabins and you get all the keys to the cabins, you can visit the captain in the cabins. And for one thing, it's kind of neat that Captain Joseph and the admin are partners.
Yeah.
But also they kind of explain like, we want out. We don't want to be here anymore, which is this really kind of interesting moment.
Yeah, it's an interesting little like the NPCs that you are meeting want to stop being NPCs.
Yeah.
And it ties into the deeper lore that like you can explore without getting to the big twist, but like it does come up a little bit if you meet a character named like a character who's like a doge head and like a robot body.
Yeah, player.
He kind of explains that like the sort of crux of the worlds like as a whole is that there were two partners who made this chat room for like, you know, just a couple of people, but then more people came in and then companies started getting involved, and one of them was, you know, interested in the expansion and, you know, getting these sponsorships, and the other one was not at all, and so they completely broke off. With the asterisk being that the guy who broke off from the project never deleted his account, and nobody's seen the other guy in years.
Yeah, this is sort of my interpretation of that last glyph by Aquanet with the two people bringing an Ethernet cable. Gosh, two people bringing an Ethernet cable, was that those were the two creators, and the Ethernet cable was the simulation.
Yeah.
The like online chat room. But so you know, the NPCs are talking about that, then I don't remember if there's anything else they really send you with other than they help you get into GeoCity. GeoCity is the final of the main levels, and it is a giant, really dark sort of cyberpunk city. There's even graffiti on a wall that says "Cyberpunk is not dead." What a nifty few years since the game came out that's been.
Yeah, what a wonderful time we currently live in now.
It's very purple and black and like velvet-y. It definitely plays more on like the sort of, I don't know, dark vaporwave aesthetics.
Yeah, the textures themselves look very directly like glitches. Like they look like they are glitched out textures, and if I remember correctly, isn't a certain part like a certain thing of the lore that like the world is sort of self-replicating itself?
Yeah,
or like keeps continually building itself procedurally.
Yeah.
So like I kind of imagine that GeoCities is sort of like it stretched to its limit, you know, where it's like, you know, it's built this massive, big, sprawling city, but you can clearly see that like it is also straining to keep procedurally generating stuff.
Right. The sort of goal of GeoCity is to reach the tower in the center of the city, which is only locked off to millionaires. So that's part of why you have to start by clearing your debts, which you do by helping the nice guys gang.
Yeah.
once the Nice Guys gang like help, or once they like trust you or you've helped them enough, they clear the way through the rest of the city. At the start, only like a small sort of side portion is available. So once you get through the rest of the city and gain access to it, there's a few other side quests like gathering mixtapes for a DJ so you can drop the bass.
Yeah,
Which
which is
just-
also wonderful.
Yeah, it's just two turntables, and then you press a button that says drop.
And when you drop it, the inside of the club goes from like the typical textures to like just this white texture very suddenly.
Yeah. There's the dancing guy Mametor again. There is a bar with a like mariachi band of skeletons that you have to get back together. You have to get the band back together. But there's another good joke with like the skeletons all say like, I don't want to go back there. The boss at the bar didn't pay me for anything. Now, if somebody did pay me, on the other hand, and so you just take out your credit card and click on them.
Yeah. I have another criticism. Do you want to hear it?
Yes.
GeoCity is a little bit weak of a, I'm going to say final in quotes, but like final level.
Yeah.
It's so, the first part of GeoCity is what you expect from the game, which is to say, like, there are quests that you kind of like don't really expect, like mentioned the download a car quest, but like the go here do that is very similar to what you expect from the rest of the game. However, the final or the secondary area where it's gather a bunch of money, 3 of the quests I think are kind of weak in that they are literally just like so like Mameator's quest is take pictures of 50 picture tokens, and the sensei is there, and his quest is destroy like 20 ads, and it's not bad, but like I feel like if that quest structure was just like completely superimposed back into Domo Paradiso, so that it like it's kind of weak for a like final here are your side quests.
Yeah.
You know,
it's very MMO-esque of like, just do a bunch of one thing. And it doesn't really care about where you're doing those, where you're taking the pictures, what viruses you're clearing. There is still the quests like the drop the bass or the mariachi band that have a bit more substance. But
yeah, and I do also think that like I think the idea is that it gives you it gives you that prompt so that you explore the city more as well, which I could see, because GeoCity is a very visually striking city and a very good city, a very fun city.
It's very big too.
Yeah, it is very big. But like it's just that it was the weaker of the like main area quests to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember having a really annoying time going through it on my first playthrough, and on my recent playthrough in preparation for this, I also had an annoying time. Mainly because the Nice Guys quest I was always really bad at.
Oh, yeah.
So like the first thing you do is you have to deliver a box to a smoke shop. And
actually, wait, before that as well, there's the way that you trigger the Nice Guys quests to begin with is you go to the bar and the guy says like, are you familiar with Cowboy Jim or whatever his name is? And once you trigger that, you see I think a guy who we've seen before, where he's got like an America shirt and a cowboy hat, and he's like dancing on a manhole cover. But if you get close to him, he goes to another manhole cover. And both of us, because I remember you getting stuck on this too, both of us couldn't figure out how to get to him, because we would try to like bookmark next to him and then click on him to talk to him, like every other NPC in the game. But what you're supposed to do is just bookmark directly on top of him. Anyway.
Yeah, so then you go to the smoke shop, which I could never figure out what you're supposed to do with the package when it's actually just click on the person running the shop again.
Yeah.
Then there's download a car, which is funny, but it did take me forever to actually find the car.
Yeah, they give you an like a circle of it could be here, but they don't tell you where.
Yeah, and you have to use the glitch lens specifically, which shows you things that you can only see while you're using the glitch lens.
Yeah.
And then I think the last one was you have to bust open the store on Main Street.
Yeah.
It's really funny because you go into the video game store, but I couldn't tell what I was supposed to do once I was in there. Turns out you have to like break the pedestals the video games are on.
Yeah, I kept trying to break the video games themselves because
Yeah.
it's like it says smash up the place and I'm like, well, this is the product.
I thought you just had to break open the windows or something.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, you just have to break the pedestals. So there's a little like lack of clarity there. It doesn't help that the stretch of GeoCity that you're able to access doesn't have a lot else going on. It's just kind of a long stretch along the side. There's not many other like side quests you can interact with. Not a lot of other machines or things to gain likes. The most you can do is toss trash into recycling bins. Which, by the way, it is fun to just toss recycling into recycling bins and like try to do it from a distance.
Yeah, that is when you unlock the full thing, that's its own side quest. You talk to a cam girl.
Yeah.
Her name is Cam Girl, and she's like, "Have you heard of recycling? It's this hot new game that perfectly suits your demographic."
Yeah. It is a pretty cool, like, sort of just fun mini game to be like, ooh, I don't want to walk over there. Can I just toss it and, Kobe it?
Yeah, and I think you get more money the further distance.
Right.
Which is great.
So once you get $1 million, you can go up the tower, which is where you get the triangle lens.
And this is where we put the secondary pause of if you want to play the game, stop now. Because like the triangles are their own collectible, but like their purpose is big spoiler. And so if you are interested at all in the game, it is not that expensive. It is a very good time, and it's one of those games that to give a preview to those who still have listened or who still want to listen or who have played the game. This is one of those games where like the ending completely recontextualizes everything. I keep fucking falling for this, by the way. Like I keep falling for this kind of video game where like, you think it's just sort of all skin deep, and then you get to the very end and like the entire game is now put into a different perspective. And I'm not mad about it. It's just that I should know better by now.
Yeah, especially when I'm the one who's like, let's do this for our podcast.
Yeah. Let's do this for no real reason.
Wink.
Anyway, so yeah, if you're interested, please buy it, please play it. It is wonderful. I love it so much. It is a very, very good game, not just themes wise, but like story wise as well.
Right.
And all right.
So at the top of the tower, there is this like penthouse. You get the triangle lens. It turns out that the triangles are keys needed to access some secret door. You get this message from One-chan, who appears and is like, process start something or other. Like code that's basically indicating like, this is a special procedure that you have started. And the triangles, there are 3 in each level. They're all fairly well hidden. They're sort of this own collectible that encourages you to backtrack and try different things.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's much to say about the triangle hunting in particular. They give you hints in that penthouse. There's like security cameras showing each of them.
2 of them are hidden in the engine room, which is annoying.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to think. Some of the more memorable ones for me, I love the one in Domo Paradiso that is behind where you get the bookmark. Because like there's this door that appears pretty early. It's one of the earliest examples of the glitch lens like logo that you see that says like use the glitch lens here. And
yeah,
the door you open leads to this like underwater, completely dark cavern with a bunch of lights in it. So there's this kind of fun element of it. There's also one hidden behind the waterfall in Axis Plaza. So yes, there is something hidden behind the waterfall in Broken Reality.
Yes.
I also really like the what was it? There's one in GeoCity where you like swing across a bunch of hyperlinks really quickly through the plaza.
Yeah, you Spider-Man your way through, and it's actually really fun.
Yeah. Some of the others are just kind of like hidden behind walls. The triangle lens purpose is that it shows you where the triangles are, but like through walls, so you can kind of move towards them, but you have to figure out ultimately how to reach them specifically.
Yeah. The big one, the most important triangle, I would say, is in Aquanet, where it is possible to have found the secret beforehand, I think. I don't know if it's blocked off to you beforehand, but once you have the triangle lens, it becomes very apparent that there's something behind one of the walls in that little challenge where it's like a code challenge, the math one, and you walk through, and it's this massive archives.
Yeah.
And the Doge player is there, and he basically is like, friend, like I sort of found a bunch of secrets, so I kind of compiled them here. And as you walk through, there's these like specific stuck out books that you click on, and they don't tell like a linear story, but like through reading them you get the context. They feel like coder's notes left in the actual code.
Yeah.
So it's not like, I woke up and we had a fight. It's like, you click on one and it's a comment that's like, God damn it, why can't he see it my way?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing.
Yeah. These are pretty clearly like messages between the two creators of the system. And the sort of big reveal that happens at this point, I think, is that there is an AI that was made to manage broken reality. Or I don't remember the name of like the software in universe. But
the Manet?
Namet. Yeah.
NAMET or something like that.
Yeah. There is an AI made to manage this so that it would automatically upscale as more people joined. And then that's where you also learn that one creator, or not where you learn it, but there's more text about how one creator wanted to expand even more so, and the other one didn't like how big it was getting.
Yeah.
And I think you also learn that there is like a failsafe put into the program to like, in case it needs to be a forced shutdown.
Yeah.
And from there, that's when you learn about the final sort of area, and you gotta get an idea of what you're doing.
Yeah. It's pretty obvious at that point, and like it's pretty obvious from just GeoCity itself, but like it's also sort of hinted with, not even hinted, it's basically explicitly said that One-chan is like not just a player aid, but is also kind of like an avatar for that change, that like AI system. And so like at that point it kind of clicks to you that like, oh, when they're saying like the NPCs will refer to quote unquote her as like the AI itself. And so like at that point you then kind of get guided to internet.
Yes, internet. It is very Doom-esque in terms of visuals.
Yeah, it is grotesque, but not like literal grotesque. It's a lot of dark reds and a lot of like visually gross coloring. It literally does look like, the insides of a computer as though the computer were a living thing.
Yeah, it's very hellish in a way.
Yeah.
There's sort of two main parts you move through. Well, there's the entryway, which is this big tower. Then there is a section that's very kind of lava-esque, almost like a crater or a mountain. It has a lot more grays there. And then there is a section with like hedge mazes and a tower. So as you're moving through this, there's different little portals that will move you between them. There are also these like balls you have to collect.
Yeah.
The kids, I want to say.
Yeah, when you click on one, it says child rescued, and you're probably going to find one of those before you even find its purpose.
Yeah. Eventually, when you reach the top, I think you meet up again with Error.
Yeah, you most likely met her in
Aquanet.
Yeah, and so yeah, you meet up with Error, and she's like, she kind of in cryptic terms is basically like, can you please bring my children to me? Then we'll talk, something like that. And so, your first immediate thought is to gather the children, and that sort of prompts you to explore more. I do want to mention that one of the areas, it's not a direct maze, I think, like there's a big hedge maze, but one of the areas that is like a transitionary area is a maze that looks like the Windows screensaver maze,
Oh, I
kind
forgot
of.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks very similar to it, and I think that's a direct reference, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's your first prompt to really like look around is to find the children, and once you find all of them, you go back to her, and she kind of continues talking cryptic, and it's sort of she says something like, you brought them back to me, but then I guess they aren't exactly my children, and I think she has something about like, life is an accident, but it's not ours to dictate. Something to that effect. Again, very cryptic, but like interesting. um, and so the one of the small brain fucks is that you have a completely black map. You have no map. You have no way of knowing where you are aside from just literally knowing where you are. And when you complete her quest, you get the status saying map updated. And when you go to the map, it's symbols that you have to input in like a door code, a 3x3 code, which is all of the badges that you've collected through the game.
Right. Don't you also meet up with fishermen again at some point during this?
Yes, you do. And the interesting thing, you meet up with fishermen, and he's on like a floating island, I think outside the hedge maze. And when you meet up with him, there's a pile of all of the tools that you've been using through the game, and you meet with him, and what does he say? It's like, oh god, it's something about a sad clown. It's something like, yeah, man will always disappoint, but so keep a laissez-faire attitude and you'll never be really upset about it. I think the implication is that he is a player as well, and so you meet with him. He gives you the second part of the map, which is the other rooms you need to go through a door. Then you go to a door. You go through like the big obvious, here is the forward progress door in the first area, and then there's this like last little challenge where you have to follow an orb of light that guides you to the end. And
if you make a wrong turn and don't follow the orb of light, you get jump scared.
Oh, you do? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, so don't mess up.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I'm actually really glad that I didn't mess up.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, you get to the end, and there's a big drop down, and the orb is just like, go ahead. And so you drop through it, and you get that video game thing where like it's under the world abyss, where like it copies each frame, and it's like you see all of your tools sort of like going past you, and then it fades to black, and when it fades back in, you're in front of a door, and it is not a door like anything else in the game. And it's you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's a giant triangle with like a very staticky look to it.
Yeah. I think if you walk forward, it's called like D447H.
Or like D347H.
Yeah.
Death.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. D347H. Death. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, you walk through the static triangle and you walk into reality. Now, what do I mean by that? I don't know. You should have played the game, apparently, if you're asking me.
It's there's a lot more like visual blur when you turn your head around.
Yeah. You start outside like this. Hang on, is it directly? Yeah. You start outside this like in this black void, but with an open door, physical door in front of you. And when you walk through, it like closes behind you, and it's this like really shitty apartment.
Yeah, there's like trash everywhere. The walls are really shitty. It's like a permanent brown air to it.
Yeah, you hear the sounds of like cars beeping outside. There's a boarded up window. The fridge is open, but like it's just got pills. There's pill bottles everywhere. There's a bong. And crucially, sitting in front of the window and refusing to look at you no matter like what angle you try for is a like blue-haired woman who looks exactly like One-chan. And like this is also what like this is one of the best like little mind fucks that a video game has given me in a while, because it's one of those rooms where it has a lot of those little references to everything that you've just experienced. So like there's a Chronic the Hedgehog doll on the bed. There's a funny haha joke in the subway where a clock says 4:19, but when you go up to One-chan, the clock like right next to her says 4:19.
There's like a samurai sword in the closet.
Yeah. You can. I think you can find most of the like physical items, but like yeah. So in the corner there's a computer, and you click on the computer, and it says something like critical error has occurred. And like if you try to reboot it, Error's face kind of like pops up on your desktop. It's not a jump scare because it's localized entirely to the computer. It might be a jump scare. But like no. Like Error's face pops up and it's like, critical failure happening. You'll need to shut down. And it's like, ignore the problem. You can't ignore the problem. Cancel. You can't back out. And so when you say shut down, it's like, doing so will delete all progress. Are you sure? And the only way forward is to say yes. And when you say yes, you turn around, the FOV zooms out really bad. You turn around and you can see that One-chan has stood up and is looking at you. And then it like fades to pixel, and Bay from SeaWorld starts playing, and like you get this, trippy section that you can walk through, but like it's just a bunch of colors as it sort of like fades out. It's like a pre-credits basically.
Yeah. It's a very big like mindfuck sort of moment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, as far as like the ending goes, I'm not sure what the like literal interpretation is.
Yeah. I haven't double checked this. I only double checked this with Matt, but like I don't know if this is one of those games where like everything has a literal meaning. Like this isn't an Undertale where like it will actually explain the in-universe ramifications of everything that it has shown you. That's not shitting on Undertale in any way. That Undertale's great. But just like this feels a lot more like a allegory of what you've just been doing. So like it's a little bit up to you to piece together, but also it's not terribly hard to.
Right. So from my understanding, what the ending is that the AI wants you to shut down the whole like Natum world, or that's like the process you've been helping the AI with.
Yeah.
Is this like forced shutdown, which is why you can't choose not to shut down it once the error occurs. And to me it feels like the like decay in a lot of other parts of the game are sort of pointing to that there is no saving it or progressing beyond just like a reset. And as far as like the ending with One-chan, I guess part of me thought that it might have been one of the creators of the game is who you're playing as. That's who One-chan was modeled after. And she only agrees to look at you once you've actually solved the problem of like, there's no fixing the situation anymore.
Yeah.
That's like more of a, interactive electronic media hypothesis than it is any sort of like direct tech supported solution, I guess, to the lore. I think it's very open on purpose though.
Yeah. The way I interpret it is that One-chan is like the actual sister of the like creator who wanted to continue it, which is who you secretly have been. Because my assumption is that Fisherman is the second creator who wanted to quit it,
right?
Because like he's the only other one who clearly has all of the tools that you do,
right? Fisherman has access to Unity.
Yeah, like that's that suddenly makes a lot more sense as just not even just a simple joke as well. And like Fisherman also has all the tools you do, and also an interesting thing is that when you find him in the void, the like 3D axis is actually like spinning in front of him, so he probably was the one who broke Aquanet to bring you down there, or broke the bridge to bring you down to Aquanet to fix it.
Mm-hmm. And that would at least
But
explain why Fisherman's the only other person in internet.
yeah, yeah. It also kind of like it makes sense from a video game standpoint as well. Of like, you as the player think that you're fixing you're fixing all these quests because a negligent creator has just left it all to rot. But like it could be that you as the player and you as the creator are like, you as the creator is trying to fix it, sort of like trying to literally keep it getting fixed, or maybe just like trying to sort of put a bow on everything before he ultimately has to close everything down.
Right. So yeah, I one thing I do want to touch on really quick while we're talking about the sort of lore part is that I'm not sure if Captain Joseph and the admin are NPCs or players. So like, I think characters like Mametor and maybe Chronic the Hedgehog are players. And I mean, a lot of other people like the nice guys, the hacker, there's another hacker you run into.
Yeah.
A lot of them, I think, are supposed to be like real people in terms of the lore of the world. And just part of it is that like the admin, just as a name, an admin is like a person in a digital world that has a higher standing or like a moderation role, an administrator, And Captain Joseph is sort of also an admin in his world in Love Cruise.
Yeah.
So like it's much different from like in GeoCity, Onechan's directly the one who's verifying whether or not you have $1 million.
Yeah. I think, like, on one hand, it would make sense for them to be players, but like on the other hand, I think there's a lore thing where the captain literally like gave everybody a break, and I think that just wouldn't make as much sense if it were NPCs, because it's like the captain kind of has basically a midlife crisis, where he's just sort of like, all the problems that you helped solve are kind of caused by him directly, because he's just like, but what's the point of it though?
Yeah.
Like my crew should be having the time of their lives right now, because I mean, fuck, all of this has been going on for far too long. And so I think that they're NPCs, but also like I interpret it as they're NPCs who basically are like, wants the game to be shut down for good, for the reasons that anybody would want anything to be shut down for good.
Yeah. And that gets me into a fun theme. The theme of online spaces. So, yeah, it's interesting talking about them wanting to shut it down for reasons anybody would want something to be shut down, because Love Cruise, the captain specifically says that, like, it's become a hotbed for degeneracy. There's sex, there's drugs, there's booze, there's partying. But like, partying in a damaging way.
Yeah.
There's all these like very unhealthy behaviors being shown in sort of excess at the Love Cruise. Oh, I forgot. The one big thing though is that Mametor is Captain Joseph's son.
Yeah, that's right. He's Captain Joseph's son. Fuck, I forgot about that as well.
So yeah, it's like this hotbed for degeneracy, and GeoCity also has this sort of element of like, there is this seedy underbelly behind it.
Yeah.
GeoCity itself is sort of modeled after like content platforms. There's a lot of references to music and music makers. It's the only place with video games actually present. The recycling...
it's also named after GeoCities.
Yeah, I was going to say the recycling quest is performed for a streamer, if you will. And ultimately the goal is to be rich to enter the tower. So it's also modeled after a different sort of online space. And there's these elements of like other spaces being abandoned. I think the general like tone of the world of Broken Reality is that of these online spaces that have either had too much or like gone too far. It's very much like, the sort of problem with the internet is because people are anonymous, some people feel more compelled to act like assholes, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's really what what Love Cruise 64 kind of makes me think of, is this rampant feeling of freedom to do things that you really shouldn't do. And I think a big part of what this game explores is sort of like, are those things actually good, or should they just be shut down, or is there any hope of reforming them?
Yeah. So one of the reasons that I like Broken Reality a whole lot is because I think it does touch on the vaporwave themes of like, a corporate corporatism kind of sullying art effectively of, when you require rapid expansion and constant expansion, you are inevitably going to encounter entropy, and your options are either to accept it or fight it, but corporatism demands that you constantly fight it. So, in the face of profit, you have to continue to create no matter the cost. But I think that Broken Reality is also very personal. It's not just like, I think that the very big thing of Hypnospace was that theme, but I think that Broken Reality also touches on like why we personally keep buying into it as well, because like the Broken Reality, like one of the best lines I think is not everything that's broken should be mended, and the Broken Reality is the video game, but also is the literal reality itself. Like, obviously, whoever you are in the end, you clearly live a shitty life, and you are clearly escaping entirely with this online space. And I think that what makes Broken Reality so great is that it touches on those themes of escapism, and it shows the terrible side of escapism as well, where you're sort of going into degeneracy just to escape whatever you're trying to escape. But like at the very end, the clear answer is obviously that, well, sometimes you gotta turn it off. And like it's not phone bad. Like, I think that the internet is certainly a positive force, but I also think that when we think about our current online lives, the reason that being is such a like big, you need to unplug every once in a while is because the internet has stratified us. The internet has put a wedge between a lot of people and like just each other. And I think some of those are good. I think there are some good wedges. I think that, we shouldn't allow Nazis on platforms. Controversial opinion. I think that it is good to have. I guess what I'm saying is ostracization can be a force for good in very limited capacity. But the problem is that the internet doesn't just allow us to ostracize the bad people. The internet makes it extremely easy to ostracize ourselves and to ostracize kind of everybody. We aren't living in a reality anymore where it's easy to talk to another person, but it's a lot easier to do that talking when it's behind a screen.
So I think that also ties into the anti-corporate theme of like part of why so I think Love Cruise is super interesting, which is why I keep going back to it, because it's a very corporate thing of like ignoring these like cesspools because they bring a lot of people, very like Facebook-ish, like the like people on Love Cruise that are being really reckless or like are enabling, they're not being banned from the platform. And part of me just wonders if that is in universe because of like there's a lot of users there, because Captain Joseph says like this cruise was supposed to be about love, but now it's just gone haywire. And it feels to me, it reminds me of things of just like, websites that will allow horrible communities to exist until there's like media attention brought to it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's sort of what you were touching on with like, we do not allow Nazis on platforms because there is room for moderation and like boundaries and stuff. But clearly Broken Reality has not, the world of it has not put enough of those in.
Yeah.
Is sort of what I think it's getting at.
Yeah, it's a world that has not put enough of those in, and it's also like it's an interesting point as well, because I think a good question to ask is basically like, if Love Cruise 64 did not exist, would it still be good as well? Like, would that solve everything? And the answer is really, no. Like, yes, it should be fixed. It shouldn't have become what it did, but also, the problem is much deeper than that. Like, I mean, kind of exactly like you said, platforms only really ban the bad people when there's negative attention to it, but that doesn't solve the root issue. If all Nazis left Twitter tomorrow, Twitter would still be a bad place for any discourse to happen that a lot of people terminally spend their time on instead of doing anything else. There would still be a lot of doom scrolling if all of the shitty people left Twitter, because the news is depressing, and Twitter, it's very easy to read a Twitter story and get depressed and not do anything about it.
Yeah. Also, I think the sort of comment on like how platforms are designed brings me to my next main theme, which is likes. Likes are very cheeky as like a joke, like, oh, your goal is to get likes. You even, but so the way you get likes is very particular. Early game, the main ways you do it are, other than like, just gathering the little like tokens scattered around, are liking advertisements and buying things.
Yeah.
And it should be noted that, so like, access to later parts of the world are barred by likes. And if we take this at face value as a literal way that the world of Broken Reality is gated, it means that there's an incentive for people to interact with corporate interests in order to progress.
Yeah.
That like, you're not, and it ties this to value. It's like, you're more popular because you have likes. But if the main way you get likes is by interacting with advertisements and spending money, it doesn't really have anything to do with you so much as it has to do with money in business.
Yeah. I apologize if you can hear meows. I'm currently holding my cat because she's very attention hungry.
Aw. Yeah, it's very much like the main way to be popular is just by appeasing corporate overlords.
Yeah. Okay. You can go down. Yeah, it's... I do want to also focus in on one line in the archive as well, which is like, I think it was something like, why doesn't he want me to succeed? Why doesn't he want me to be happy? Where like, I interpret that as the guy who sold out, the creator who sold out, is like, he didn't necessarily act, nobody really acts, completely like like a fat cat from the 1920s or whatever. Nobody's like, I'll have all the money in the world, unless they're a billionaire, in which case that's exactly what they're all like, and none of them deserve your respect. But like, for the little guys, for the people who like made it, quote unquote, you don't start becoming that constant wealth seeker, that constant success seeker out of like, out of ill intentions. When you see that, your immediate thought is like, holy crap, I made it. Holy crap, I'm big enough as a YouTuber to get sponsored by a company. Holy crap, my song is number one on iTunes now. Record companies are offering me deals. Like, you don't start that cycle because you want to go down that road. It's just sort of like, when you start going down that road, what you have to be careful for is that you lose yourself along the way. You lose what made it special. And it's really easy to do that when corporate interests are on the line.
Right. It's like, I don't blame creators for taking advertisement spots like that in videos because they deserve to get paid for their work.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what that makes me think of, is like the guy who wants to expand wants to do it because he wants to make a living doing what he does. Doing what they do, just like making a program.
Yeah. It's honestly, it's very similar to
Dylan,
Daniel
but
Merchant. Or yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say
Merchant.
it's very similar to that.
Yeah, it's that, like, you know, how you become a Dylan Merchant is you have an instant like a Broken Reality, where it's like you have something that gets a lot of success, and you know, your immediate thought is, oh god, this is great, I can do what I love now. But if you do what you love without any recourse for understanding your position now, then you end up with a broken mess that probably is nothing like what you originally wanted it to be.
Honestly, I didn't think about how similar this is to Hypnospace in that regard, because Hypnospace also has the feeling of like it's rampant with viruses and problems, and the people in charge aren't putting enough time into fixing it.
Yeah.
I do want to mention that something really interesting to go along with the idea of like becoming more popular. Every level has an element of vertical movement that's really significant, not just socially, but like physically. So Domo Paradiso has the whole Dragon Road, and then the exit is way up in the air. Aquanet has the 3 of the temples at least require, or no, 2 of them require vertical movement, but also you have to like leave the water. And then the final temple you go through to visit Error also is vertical. Love Cruise, you start at the bottom of the ship and you have to climb up the engine room. And once you're out there, you can't visit the top deck until you actually complete a side quest.
Yeah.
Then GeoCity, there's the whole tower. But also, once you do the side quests for the nice guys and they let you into the rest of the city, you can start climbing on top of the roofs. And then finally, Internet is sort of this with the Hedge Maze Tower world. Has a very moving upward aspect. Interestingly, the final area in Internet, the like question mark ends with you descending.
Yeah, that's like the first I think major area in Internet, interestingly, like starts you off at the top, and a lot of the puzzles are finding your way down.
I guess the intro room with like the door code input thing is vertical, as in upwards, I mean. But then, yeah, the crater area is very much like, how do you go down safely?
Yeah. It uses the verticality in like ways that subvert the original, but also ways that you know, go with it as well, like in the hedge area.
Right. It is also worth noting that when you get to that penthouse and get the triangle lens, you exit it by jumping off the balcony. So the first major descent is, I guess, Aquanet, where you're shown how bad the situation is. Second major descent is when you have the extra purpose of finding the keys. And then the final major descent is when you're exiting Internet and going into death. It kind of feels like going upwards is like escapism. You know, eventually the goal is to be the most popular, the most rich. That's the ultimate escapism.
Yeah.
But going downward, I'm actually making hand motions, by the way, just because I'm talking. But going downward is the ultimate, like, it's addressing problems and wanting to fix them. And so, you know, you do that when you have to address Aquanet. You do that when you want to start finding the keys. And then you do that at the end when you realize you need to shut it down.
Yeah.
It's very strong use of, like, ludic language, I guess. The language of playing a video game, in that your movement is significant to the story.
Yeah.
Ludonarrative harmony.
we rarely get to talk about ludonarrative harmony in games journalism. It's always dissonance. I think one minor thing, I guess a minor detail that I'm still sort of parsing out. When you get to reality and meet One-chan, there's a poster of her on the wall that's like her as like an idol or like a singer, and there's also a body pillow of her in the closet, which is kind of funny. But I think the idea is that like she had fame of some sort, and so like you kind of monopolized that in the reality. Like the helper character isn't just One-chan, it's, you know, famed idol singer One-chan. Oh ho, look at us. And so like I think that just sort of it's I bring it up because it's a small detail, but also it's something that you know, harmonizes well with the idea of like, you know, how corporate interests sort of usurp themselves into your self. Like the person coded his sister into the game. I assume it's his sister. The person coded One-chan into the game because of corporate interest. You know?
Yeah. It's, and I mean, I think that's again why she only looks at you once you delete it all, is because like you finally realize the mistake of your ways.
Yeah.
You can atone.
I also like the usage of her. I'm a simp for any game that like pulls the rug out from under you, where like, you know, you assume her is the AI, but when you know, get out, it's obvious that her is the real One-chan, and the AI was probably error, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but then also who like injected herself into the One-chan model? Was that error, or was that like the real life One-chan talking
I always
to you?
thought Error was the one doing that to get you to, you know, meet Error finally.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would make sense.
Like One-chan is like a branch or something, and an avatar, a separate entity.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say that Fisherman is a white hat hacker.
Yeah, that's right.
That's pretty good.
Not
much else to say about that.
Yeah. The only other thing that I have to talk about is the credit sequence, because it's the best credit sequence in any video game. It's a big dance party of all the people you just met, and like it's a wonderful palate cleanser after the like brainfuck ending, because like the brainfuck ending is very obviously open-ended and ambiguous. It's very obviously like you don't know what's going to happen to these two, but you can only assume that it's probably going to be good now that you finally logged off. But the ending is the credit sequence in the background of all the credits. All of the characters that you've just met are like dancing or celebrating in some way. Like Mamator, who like at the very end of the game was kind of lamenting, like, I don't really have any real friends, everybody just wants to talk about my abs, is seen dancing with like some of the other NPCs you've met. And like the hacker character like proposes to another character and gets rejected, which is very fun and cathartic considering he's been an asshole the entire game.
He also kind of looks like Eric Sparrow from Tony Hawk's Underground.
He does. To the like shopkeep who you bust his stuff up, and like one of the other characters are seen playing video games together, which is very nice. Yeah, it's like after the sort of like ambiguous end of reality, it shows that at the very least you definitely made the right decision with the NPCs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have much else to say. I feel like we covered most of it.
Yeah,
it has a really funny speed run.
Yeah,
I showed Galen some tricks the other day before we recorded this, obviously, and like I still remember some of them. It's broken in a way that you won't likely find on your casual playthrough, except for maybe one thing. But like they're really, really flexible, which is always fun for a speed game for me.
Yeah. I'll give you, it's not even a hint, it's actually just something you can use in your normal playthrough. You might know of the speedrunning trick of going diagonal goes faster in a lot of games. It turns out that yes, going diagonal is faster in Broken Reality.
Yeah.
I could not tell that for the entire time that I played, but yes, it does.
This isn't even a speed tech, but you can press space twice in midair to like break your fall. It's not a jump, but it just halts your vertical momentum. So if there's a long gap, you can use that to kind of cross it a bit easier.
Yeah.
It's really effective to get the triangle that is on the like fan area of Aquanet. That's one case where it's useful.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to say. Broken Reality is a very good game, and very thematically, like, still thematically relevant, I would argue, especially nowadays when a lot of our social interaction is online. So yeah, that's all I have.
Yep. Thank you for listening. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at NetSurferPro, where we post little hints and teasers at what we've got next. Keep an eye out for our final episode of VaporMay, which I'll be spoiling, whenever we get it squared out. You can also follow us on any podcasting platform you like. You can give us a rating, give us comments. We'll also take any suggestions you have for anything interesting we can check out, maybe do an episode on.
Yeah. Or even just a state of the meme if you'd like to see us highlight a meme.
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at MattCraigGaming. I tweet about different projects I'm working on, some funny thoughts, anything I'm kind of currently consuming. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/twack. That's TWAK. I stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, still kind of working with the actual time on those days. I streamed a little bit of the new Pokemon Snap recently, but I've mainly been streaming a lot of Binding of Isaac. So go there if you want more analysis, as well as just, fun gameplay of roguelites, competitive games, and such.
You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Galen Wilsons. That's twitter.com/GALENWILS0N. I post my hot takes and retweet whatever comes across my feed that's nice or dumb, or posted by The Onion, which is both.
Or Dice. Or Numb.
I've become so numb.
And anyway. I've become so gonna end the podcast.
You can also find me on YouTube at The Only Galen on YouTube. I swear I'll have a video sometime. And I think those are the only two real plugs. Twitch.tv/Machine Gun Vampire. I might also start streaming at some point. I've got a Scribble Knots challenge run I'm considering doing, so follow if you're interested in that. Anyway, with that said, I've been Galen.
And I've been Matt.
And always surf those nets responsibly.
Yeah, see ya.